Greetings. My marriage, once considered indestructible, crumbled following a charity gala that irrevocably altered our relationship. A single dance exposed our truth. As my wife moved in another man's arms amidst the bustling crowd, she failed to seek my gaze, instead swaying as if I were a figment of her imagination. Her world began shattering upon my exit through those doors. Now she attempts to explain, but some betrayals are too profound for words to mend. I am Connor Wallace, aged 38, who once believed in the envy-worthy marriage with Rachel. We met in college, shared 3 years of courtship, and exchanged vows at a ceremony overlooking Lake Michigan. Together, we purchased a home in Chicago's suburbs, welcomed Duke, our golden retriever, into our family, and discussed eventually expanding our brood when the moment was right. Rachel advanced through a PR firm downtown, while I thrived designing commercial buildings. We weren't affluent, but we lived contentedly. Every Friday was date night, weekends were spent on home improvement tasks, and there was an annual big vacation. Our life wasn't glitzy, but it was ours, and I believed we were happy. My father often said, "Connor, a good marriage isn't defined by grand gestures. It's about choosing each other daily." And I chose Rachel every day without hesitation. Even during tough times, even when we argued repetitively about trivial matters, I never doubted that our marriage would last forever. Friends lamented their relationships, and I'd internally appreciate the strength of Rachel and my bond. We were steady, unyielding. However, I began to question this belief during the charity fundraiser in April. It was a formal event, like those Rachel's firm often organized a gala for a cancer research foundation at the Meridian Hotel downtown. For several weeks, Rachel orchestrated the event, and I felt honored to be her companion, despite my usual indifference towards such functions. I rented a tuxedo, shined my shoes, and braced myself for an evening filled with trivial conversations with unfamiliar faces, accompanied by overpriced champagne. If given the chance to redo that night, would I have acted differently? Would I have opted to stay home or concocted an excuse, or would I still have entered the ballroom, oblivious that my entire life was on the verge of collapse? The fact is, I can't say for sure. However, one thing is certain. Once you've witnessed something, you can't unsee it. Once you've felt the shock when you discover your life narrative has been based on quicksand, and once you've recognized that the person who shared a bed with you for a dozen years possesses the power to shatter everything you've built together with just one dance, there's no going back. The Meridian Hotel ballroom gleamed that particular night. Crystal chandeliers casting their glow on polished marble floors, champagne glasses clinking, and a murmur of Chicago's high society discussing their latest charitable endeavors. Rachel was radiant in a deep blue dress that accentuated her figure flawlessly. Her golden hair was styled up to showcase the diamond earrings I had gifted her for our 10th anniversary. "You looked sharp, Wallace," she murmured, adjusting my bow tie before we entered. The scent of her perfume lingered in the air around us, familiar yet slightly elusive, like a recollection that just slipped out of reach. The night unfolded as expected. I sipped on the same glass of scotch while exchanging pleasantries with acquaintances. Rachel moved gracefully from one group to another, clearly at ease. From time to time, she'd catch my gaze across the room and smile, reminding me why I tolerated these events initially. Around 10, the live band commenced playing, and couples made their way to the dance floor. A retired architect persistently discussed his past designing suburban strip malls, leaving me alone. Rachel seemed to have vanished amidst the crowd, presumably tackling a late-minute crisis for the event. "Your wife performs commendable work," he remarked, indicating vaguely across the room. "The organization is fortunate to have her." I politely nodded and glanced where he pointed. It was then that I noticed them. Rachel was on the dance floor with an unfamiliar man, tall, with dark hair, exuding a self-assuredness from either inherited wealth or recent triumphs. His hand lingered too casually on her lower back as they danced to the rhythm. The dance wasn't merely a dance. I had seen Rachel dance professionally and appropriately with colleagues before. This was distinct. She gazed at him with an expression I hadn't witnessed in years, a blend of captivation and longing that sent a chill down my spine. The moment that struck me most wasn't their close proximity or his straying touches. It was her intense absorption while laughing at something he whispered in her ear, unaware of everything else happening around them. She seemed to dance only with him, as if I and the room full of her colleagues and our shared friends were non-existent. I longed for a mere glance from her to confirm my existence, to lessen the tightening knot within me. But she never did. She was engrossed in a moment that excluded me, with a man who clearly wasn't just an acquaintance. Despite the crowded room, I felt a chill. The speaker continued, but their words were merely sounds now. I didn't create a spectacle or demand answers. Instead, I calmly moved towards the exit, questioning if she would even notice my absence. I stood near the bar, observing as Rachel and her dance partner smoothly moved across the dance floor. Despite the crowd around me, it felt like I was invisible. A waiter offered me another drink, which I accepted without hesitation, never tearing my eyes away from the spectacle. The music transitioned to a slower, more intimate tune. Usually, such dances would end with partners separating, returning to their individual corners. Instead, he drew her nearer, and there, my Rachel seemed to meld into him as if she was made for that very moment. I recognized the expression on her face. It was the same one she'd given me during our early days together, a blend of desire and wonder, almost disbelief at her fortune. Now she belonged to another. "Isn't this an interesting gathering?" interjected Marissa, one of Rachel's co-workers. "Rachel did a fantastic job organizing this event," I replied, maintaining a remarkably calm tone. Marissa mirrored my gaze towards the dance floor. Her smile faltered upon spotting Adrian. I hadn't known he was coming, Adrian. Hearing his name felt like a blow. This wasn't just some acquaintance. Rachel's dance partner was none other than someone I recognized, and not comfortably so. Uncomfortable enough to make me hurry away. For what seemed like hours, but was likely mere minutes, I observed them. His hand moved down her back. He murmured something in her ear that caused her to throw back her head in laughter. Briefly, his lips touched her neck. So quick it could have been a figment of my imagination, if not for the way her grip tightened on him. This wasn't their first encounter. This wasn't even flirting. What I saw was an intimate dance between two people deeply in sync. I've always considered myself a calm, logical person, one who doesn't make a scene or jump to conclusions. In another man's arms, my wife moved with an intimacy that hinted at more than friendship, causing a shattering sensation within me. I had two options: publicly embarrass us both by confronting them on the dance floor, or withdraw, preserving the remnants of my dignity. I chose the latter, placing my untouched drink on the bar and departing, taking measured steps toward the exit without any dramatic gestures or lingering glances. The chilly night air hit me as the gala sounds receded behind me. As I handed my ticket to the valet, I understood that my hand was trembling, not with rage, though it simmered beneath, but from the sudden realization that perhaps my marriage had ended much earlier I simply hadn't noticed. My car was brought back by the valet, prompting me to tip him generously, a quirk Rachel frequently teased about. She often said I didn't have to buy friendships with money, Connor. A brief thought crossed my mind. Would Adrian be the kind who excessively tips, or one who expects superior service without recognition? I settled into the driver's seat, but hesitated to start the engine. The majestic hotel entrance loomed in my rearview mirror as latecomers continued to arrive stylishly. Momentarily, I hoped, anticipated even, Rachel would appear through those doors, calling out my name, questioning why I'd gone without a farewell. She didn't show up. In the labyrinth of downtown Chicago, I aimlessly drove, the city lights smearing across the windshield as I struggled to comprehend what I had seen. A part of me desired to believe it was a misinterpretation, that they were merely colleagues sharing a dance, nothing more. Overpowering the reasonable voice within, her face and her gaze lingered, overshadowing my recognition of her absence. Autopilot guided me towards O'Malley's, a humble bar where Tyler and I had spent many sports events. It might not have been posh, but it was familiar and inconspicuous, an ideal spot for consoling both liquor and battered ego. The bar was sparsely populated, a game on TV above the counter. I picked a secluded corner booth, asking for a straight whiskey. The bartender, a grizzled man in his 50s accustomed to solitary drinkers, served it without chit-chat. 2 drinks later, my phone vibrated. It was Rachel, asking my location, claiming she had searched everywhere. I scrutinized the screen, my thumbs poised over the keypad. She had taken 2 hours to recognize I was gone. The charitable event she had meticulously organized held greater significance than her husband's sudden disappearance, or perhaps it was not the event itself, but Adrian that mattered more. After much deliberation, I opted for a straightforward message. Purr. 3 brief pauses followed, then vanished, only to reappear. Are you all right, Rachel? Has something occurred? The audacity of her query caused me to chuckle, catching the bartender's attention. Something has happened. It encompassed the shattering of all my beliefs regarding our marriage's foundation. I silenced my phone without replying and motioned for another drink. Rachel had neglected to inquire about me for 2 hours. I deserved at least that much time before confronting her fabrications or explanations. As I sipped on my third whiskey, it dawned on me that the pain wasn't merely betrayal. It was the lack of remorse I saw in her gaze when I spotted her dancing. In that moment, she hadn't given me a second thought, and it felt like the raw conclusion of our marriage. Time blurred at O'Malley's. As midnight neared, the crowd dwindled, leaving only the bartender, a few regulars, and myself watching an uninteresting West Coast game. My phone sporadically buzzed with calls from Rachel, which transitioned into increasingly anxious texts. Another round, the bartender suggested, indicating my empty glass. I declined, opting instead for coffee. I wasn't drunk. 3 whiskeys over several hours weren't enough to affect me. But I sought clarity. The haze of shock was receding, replaced by a sharp, focused anger that craved action, not escape. While waiting for the coffee, I finally looked at my phone, revealing 12 missed calls and a string of texts, each more urgent than the last. Rachel, are you returning? Rachel, Connor, please respond to me. Worried about Rachel, want to know she's safe. Ask her to come home for conversation. Left the gala and will be home in 20 minutes. Last message sent an hour ago, she likely at home now. Visualize her pacing our living room in blue dress, rehearsing explanation. Thought made stomach turn. Coffee arrived, strong and black. Thanked bartender and considered options. Could go home, argue, cry, yell, or forgive without understanding. Decided conversation needed daylight and sobriety. Called friend Connor for shelter instead. His voice filled with genuine worry almost shattered me. She's all right, but we aren't. I'll explain when I arrive. After 20 minutes, I found myself on Tyler's couch, cradling a fresh cup of coffee, recounting the events at the gala. Without interruption, Tyler listened as I detailed the dance, Adrian and Rachel's apparent disregard for my presence. Goodness gracious, he eventually murmured. Is that really what happened? Don't try to defend it. Just listen. You didn't observe them together. Tyler raked his hand through his hair. All right, I trust you. Now, what's your strategy? I confessed my ignorance. I require answers before making any decisions. Do you think she'll tell the truth? That was the question I had been evading all evening. Probably not at first, but I'll know if she's being untruthful. My phone vibrated again. Another message from Rachel. Rachel, please just confirm your safety. I'm terrified for you. I responded briefly. I'm secure. Staying with Tyler. We'll discuss it tomorrow. 3 dots briefly appeared and vanished, returning after a minute. I'm sorry, Tyler murmured, observing my gaze on the screen. You may use the spare bedroom, he suggested, noting its comfortability. I acknowledged with a nod. Thanks. Perhaps I won't sleep much tonight either way. Would you accompany me tomorrow when we meet her? Your offer was thoughtful. However, no, thank you. This is something I must face alone. That night, as I lay in Tyler's spare bedroom, contemplating the ceiling, I pondered over those 2 words. I'm sorry. Not a denial or an explanation, just an apology. For what specific action, I wondered. For dancing with him. For allowing me to witness it, or for their past interactions long before tonight. I had a premonition that the answer was already clear. The morning broke harshly, flooding Tyler's guest room with unpleasant light through the blinds. I managed only 3 hours of sleep. In a muddled sequence, my dream features ballroom dancers with Rachel's visage held by Adrian. My phone displayed 6 missed calls from Rachel and a message from Tyler indicating he'd gone for his morning jog, but left coffee in the kitchen. After showering and borrowing a clean t-shirt from Tyler's wardrobe, I confronted my reflection. The individual gazing back seemed older, as if the past 12 hours had hastened time. Bags obscured my eyes, and my jaw was covered in stubble. I mirrored a man whose life had been abruptly disrupted. Coffee helped clarify my thoughts. By the time Tyler returned, I had devised a strategy, not necessarily a good one, but a plan nonetheless. "You appear dreadful," he remarked, retrieving a water bottle from the fridge. "I feel the same. Thanks for letting me stay." Tyler leaned against the counter. "Are you leaving now?" I nodded. I need answers, and if they're not what I want to hear, it was the question that haunted me all night. After pondering what needs to be kept, Tyler gave me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "Shall I call you later? Let me hear from you, just to ensure you're all right." As promised, I departed, my journey home becoming a sequence of predetermined inquiries and forecasted responses. What would Rachel react? Would she deny it, downplay it, or admit it right away? Each scenario brought its own kind of suffering. Our house remained unchanged from how I'd left it the previous day, a harsh reminder that significant disclosures don't modify physical surroundings. Rachel's vehicle was in the driveway. For a brief moment, I hesitated in my car, summoning courage before eventually exiting and approaching the front door. There, I discovered her in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, holding a cup of tea. Her eyes were bloodshot and swollen from weeping. "Connor," she whispered, her voice husky. "Thank goodness you're here. We need to discuss something." I replied curtly, continuing to stand, despite her indicating a chair. "I know. Let's talk about last night. Who is Adrian?" I interjected. Her complexion turned ashen. "How are you?" "Irrelevant." "Who is he, Rachel?" She inhaled shakily. "He associates with the foundation. We crossed paths a few months back during the preparations for the gala, and nothing. We're co-workers. Friends." I let out a sarcastic chuckle. "Attempt another explanation." "Friends don't dance as intimately as you two did. It was just a dance, Connor. You're overreacting." There it was. The dismissal I anticipated. A dance so enchanting that you failed to notice your spouse departing the room. I was occupied. It was work. I had obligations, including duties towards the mysterious man whose touch you seemed to welcome. Color flooded her cheeks. "That's not accurate." "No. What's unfair is witnessing my wife gazing at another man in the manner she once looked at me. What's unfair is recognizing that I've been blind to signs for who knows how long." I took a deep breath. "I'm only going to ask this question once, and I expect honesty. Are there any undercurrents between you and Adrian?" Rachel's gaze fell to the ground. In that instant, before she uttered a word, my response was clear. "I can't put it into words." She whispered softly. "Have you been intimate with him?" The question scorched my throat. "No. Goodness, no. It's not like that." "Then tell me, Rachel, explain this to me." Her gaze lifted, tears cascading down her cheeks. "He makes me feel noticed, valued. Just as you used to before work, routine, and mortgage obligations turned our relationship into a mere repetition." Her words struck me forcefully, not because they were hurtful, but because embedded within the accusation was a reality I couldn't ignore. We had grown complacent, monotonous. I took our marriage for granted, believed it would always be there. But so did she. "He appreciates you." I wandered aimlessly through the kitchen. "And this is what justifies everything. What about our vows, Rachel? What about the life we've established together?" She shuddered at my words. "I'm not excusing anything. I've been attempting to clarify the progression of events." "Progression," I echoed, as if it were a natural occurrence, which isn't what I meant. I halted my pacing and leaned against the countertop. "How long has this been going on?" Rachel looked up from her tea. "We first met 4 months ago at the Foundation's planning meeting. At first, our interactions were strictly professional, but then we began having coffee after meetings, followed by lunch. We conversed about various topics: work, aspirations, struggles, matters I used to discuss with you before your focus shifted towards the downtown project. Your accusation hurt, partially because there was an element of truth to it. Indeed, I had been working extended hours on the lakefront tower development, returning home drained, often missing dinner. Yet, this does not justify your actions. Therefore, it's not my fault that you grew fond of another man. No, her eyes flashed. I'm not casting blame upon you for my decisions. I'm simply recounting the sequence of events. Has he been in our home? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. In our bed? Absolutely not. Connor, I reminded you this wasn't a physical relationship. Not yet, I clarified, emphasizing that it hadn't been so far. She offered no reply to my statement. I scratched my face with the back of my hand, feeling the roughness of my beard against my skin. I need the whole truth, Rachel. No more partial stories. For the next hour, Rachel recounted her relationship with Adrian Thompson, a 38-year-old financial advisor who volunteered for the Cancer Foundation in memory of her late mother. They began with casual coffees that turned into lengthy lunches, followed by daily text messages, evening phone calls during her commute, private jokes, shared secrets, and emotional entanglement, but not yet a defined romantic relationship. He's aware of your existence, she whispered softly. I mention you, I retorted sarcastically. Does he know that I saw the two of you last night? That I left while you were in his arms? She surmised you might have gone outside or to the hotel bar, and when she didn't receive your calls or messages, she became anxious. She then understood that you must have seen them together. How it would look, she murmured, not how it actually was. Connor, please, she begged. Have you informed him about last night, about this conversation? Her silence served as an answer. You've communicated with him today. It wasn't a question. He texted to ensure your safe return, she confessed. Did you tell him why? Another hesitation. Yes, I chuckled without joy. So he knows his rival is interested. It's not a competition, isn't it? I retorted, pushing away from the counter. From where I stand, it seems like one. And apparently, I've been losing for months without even realizing I was playing. The question lingered between us. Was my marriage at an end? Was I prepared for it to be? I require some time and space, I stated eventually. Rachel's eyes grew larger. What does that imply? I explained. It means I'm uncertain if I can reside in the same household with you at this moment, understanding you've been confiding in another man for several months. Connor, please, we can navigate through this. Many do recover from such situations. She seemed startled. Some do, I agreed, but I'm not certain I wish to. This caused her to flinch. You don't truly mean that. Don't dictate my feelings. My voice remained surprisingly tranquil. You forfeited the right to interpret my sentiments when you deemed our marriage insufficient for you. I headed towards her bedroom, retrieving the suitcase from the closet, the same one we utilized for our anniversary trip to Michigan only 6 months prior. Rachel trailed behind, lingering in the doorway as I meticulously packed a week's worth of clothing. Where will you stay? She asked softly. Probably Tyler's or a hotel. I haven't decided yet. For how long? I zipped up the suitcase and faced her. I'm uncertain, Rachel. I can't assure you if I'll return at all. Her tears started falling once more, but her sobs felt empty to me after what she had disclosed. Was she crying out of genuine remorse or guilt, or was it fear of the repercussions of her actions? What about Adrian? I questioned. Will you continue seeing him during my absence? A look of shock crossed her face. No, certainly not. Why not? If he makes you feel understood and seen, why deny yourself when your husband is aware? Because I love you, she murmured softly. I've never stopped loving you. Those words should have offered comfort. Instead, they made me angry. That's not love, Rachel. Love doesn't pursue other men when times get tough. Love doesn't conceal text messages and secret meetings. Love doesn't slow dance with another while your husband watches. I picked up my suitcase from the bed. I'll collect a few things from the bathroom now. Then I'll be leaving. Could we discuss matters before you take any definitive actions? Please, Perhaps with a mediator. I hesitated at the door. Maybe, but not today. Later on, I was packing my bag into my car. Rachel was on the porch, hugging herself, watching me assemble to depart from our shared existence. For a brief instant, I nearly relented, nearly suggested we resolve it, nearly climbed those steps back, and re-entered the arms that had been entwined with another man mere hours prior. Instead, I climbed into my car and drove off, observing her silhouette shrink in my rear-view mirror until she vanished entirely. Shortly after, my phone vibrated with a message. I anticipated it to be Rachel with yet another remorse or appeal. Instead, it was Tyler. "How did it go? Are you all right?" I swiftly responded. She confessed everything. "On my way to you now. We'll clarify when I arrive." His response came promptly. "Doors are open. Beer is cold. Take your time." After the gala, for the first instance, I felt something other than rage or sorrow gratitude. In this tempest, I wasn't entirely deserted. The hotel room served as my temporary abode. For 3 days at Tyler's, I craved both physical and emotional distance. The downtown Marriott wasn't lavish, but it was tidy, unobtrusive, with a respectable bar in the lobby where I could sip whiskey while pondering the fragments of my marriage. Rachel texted daily, sending apologies, updates on trivial household matters, and increasingly urgent requests for conversation. I responded only to practical inquiries, constructing a barrier of silence I knew was wounding her. Perhaps that was the intention. A week following our departure from her house, I found myself at the hotel bar when my phone illuminated with Tyler's name. "Hello," I replied. "Simply checking up," he said. "Haven't heard from you in a couple of days." "I'm okay. Existing." Rachel contacted me. Straightened myself. "What? When?" he replied. "This morning. She's concerned about you. Says you aren't replying to her messages. Did you tell her where I am?" Tyler responded, "No." Paused. "I shouldn't have to. But hey, you can't hide in a hotel forever." Acknowledged his point. Took a week off work, claiming a family emergency. Reality loomed. Bills, deadlines, decisions about my marriage. I knew, sighed deeply. Aren't ready to confront her yet. Understood. "But there's something else you should know," Tyler said, pausing. "Inquired about this Adrian fellow." Tightened my grip on the phone. "Seems he's been seen with other women before Rachel. Married, always associated with the foundation. Word is he enjoys a challenge." A chill filled me as I realized Rachel wasn't unique to Adrian. After ending the call, I stared at my drink, his words reverberating in my mind. Rachel appeared to be just another conquest for Adrian. Another wife to pursue, another self-boost. The disclosure shouldn't have angered me. Instead, it shed light on something I've grappled with all week. This wasn't about Adrian. It was about us and our marriage, the state it had deteriorated into before he arrived. I picked up my phone for the first time in days to communicate with my wife. "We need to discuss things." "Tomorrow, 7 p.m., neutral territory, Wilson Street's coffee shop." Her response came swiftly. "Rachel, I'll be there." "Thanks, Connor." As I put down my phone, I realized I had already made up my mind. I was unsure if Rachel was prepared to hear it. 15 minutes early, I secured a table in the back corner of the shop. The crowd was scant, a minor relief. Whatever transpired next, I wanted privacy. At exactly 7 p.m., Rachel entered. She'd lost weight during our separation. Her clothes hung loosely on her frame. Her eyes were marred by dark circles, and her hair was gathered in a plain ponytail rather than the meticulously styled version she usually sported. Upon seeing me, she hesitated before coming over, as though uncertain of her reception. I motioned to the vacant chair opposite me, and she sat down cautiously. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," she whispered softly. I acknowledged her with a nod. "Would you like something to drink?" she asked politely. "I'm fine." She fiddled with her wedding ring, an old nervous habit that dated back to our wedding day. "How are you?" I inquired. "Surviving," was her response. I scrutinized her face for any indication and found remorse, apprehension, love, and exhaustion all intertwined, mirroring my own state. "Have we spoken to Adrian since then?" she asked. tensing but maintaining eye contact. He's reached out via calls and texts, I replied. I haven't responded. Why not? She inquired, her voice taking on a harder tone. Because I've come to realize what he truly intended. Her gaze remained steady. Adrian doesn't care about me, she said curtly. I'm merely another conquest, another married woman he could ensnare. This was something Tyler had told me before. She shook her head in denial. She didn't need to delve into it. I conducted my own investigation following your departure and discovered two other women from the organization who underwent similar situations. His actions display a pattern. I gave a slight nod in response. As for us, do we follow a pattern too? Yes, she conceded. We tend to overlook one another. We cease making an effort. We forget why we initially chose each other. Her candor caught me off guard. I haven't been the husband you deserve, I admitted. I've been preoccupied with work and should have communicated my needs instead of searching elsewhere. Tears began to form in her eyes. So, where does that put us? That question has haunted me all week, lying awake in my hotel room, fixated on the ceiling. I weighed our shared history against the pain of your infidelity, evaluated what we'd built versus what we'd lost. I'm unsure if I can trust you again, I confessed at last. Yet, I'm not prepared to discard 12 years either. Essentially, I want to make an attempt. The words caught me off guard as I uttered them, not pledges or forgiveness just yet, but an attempt, within boundaries, with counseling. A wave of relief washed over her. When will you return? Not immediately, I require more time, but perhaps soon. She nodded, grasping the offer I was extending. Not a reconciliation, not at this moment, but a glimmer of hope. A door slightly ajar instead of firmly shut. As we exited the coffee shop into the chilly Chicago night, Rachel paused beneath a streetlight, her face partially concealed. I love you, Connor. I've never ceased, not even when I was lost. She didn't reciprocate, couldn't, not yet. But for the first time in days, I felt something other than rage and pain, something that might, with time and effort, transform into trust again. I promised to call her tomorrow and walked away, alone, aware that sometimes the toughest decisions leave the future unwritten. Goodbye.